Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a panel discussion on the outbound travel from the Middle East. The challenges ahead actually is something which we all know what we're going through, and we like to hear from esteemed panelists. But before I introduce my panel today, I would like to thank you for participating in Singapore's first virtual roadshow in partnership with Traveltv Middle East. Singapore has always maintained its commitment to the Middle East market, and today they have adopted to the new normal. That's what I like about them. They have already adapted the new normal and introduced this event to foster deeper relations with the travel trade. Hope you all make the most of the event today and help grow the tourism in future. I will take today just now, and I'd like to introduce the panelists, our real experts who are going to discuss what the future looks like. And they will look at the crystal ball, and I hope something they can predict would be virtually good to look at. Of course, I would like to start with the ever smiling face of Singapore. And we have GB Sridhar. He's the regional director for India, Middle East, South Asia, and is based in Mumbai. He has worked for Singapore Tourism Board for more than 2 decades in various leadership positions. Sridhar, 2 decades. I thought you were much younger than all that, to put it that way. In his current role, Sridhar is responsible for STB's regional marketing, tourism development, and trade partnership, working in India, South Asia, and the Middle East. He's introducing leisure marketing, MICE, cruise, and school trips promotion. Welcome, Sridhar. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Moving on, I would like to introduce the lady we have among us is Regina. She's the sales manager for Far East Hospitality in Singapore. In her current role, Regina is representing Village Hotel Sentosa, the Outpost Hotel, and the Barracks Hotel from the Far East Hospitality. Far East Hospitality is an international hospitality owned and operated with a diverse portfolio of nine unique and contemporary brands of hotels, service residence, and apartment hotels. Welcome, Regina. It's a pleasure to have you over here.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, I would like to introduce to you is Alvin Yo. He joined Sea World Travel as Assistant General Manager inbound in 2018. In his role, he is responsible to ensure continuous growth in the company's existing source markets portfolio and to acquire new potential markets for incoming tourist traffic to Singapore. Today, Sea World Travel has become one of the most established destination management companies in Singapore and operates an in-house fleet of more than 40 vehicles. Welcome, Alvin. It's a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be here, Sanjay.
Moving on, I would like to introduce to you is Christian Stenkowitz, is the General Manager of Gulf and Middle East at Singapore Airlines. A passionate aviation professional with management expertise and people skill. Christian has been in the airline for 13 years with degrees from IUBH University. It is Coventry University and Emirates Aviation University. Christian has worked in the USA, has worked in Germany, Singapore, India, and now is based in Dubai. Welcome, Christian. Pleasure to have you.
To be here. Thank you.
Moving on, I would like to introduce to you is Mahmood Midan. He is the Managing Director, Middle East, North Africa, and India at Vigo. Drawing on more than a decade of experience in the region, the passionate drives revenue and market growth in the Middle East, North Africa, and India, and leads the region's operation. Mahmood, vast experience along with his strong leadership, skills, and significant multinational experience brings a new dynamic and to the management team. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mahmood. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, friends, moving on, I would like to mention something which are statistics which everybody knows, but I think this is really the key part of it. The Middle East outbound traveler is a very promising one. With an average stay of 11 days and an average spend of US dollars $250 a day, everyone wants this GCC tourist. I would like to start with Sridhar. Please, can you tell us more about the measures taken by Singapore to welcome tourists? Sridhar, over to you.
Hi, Sanjit, and a very good morning or good afternoon, whichever time this panel discussion is going to be viewed. A huge thanks to all the travel trade fraternity in Middle East for supporting Singapore Tourism Board all these years. Every year we come, my team and I come to the market for our annual road shows. And last year, November, which is now like so far and so far away, right? Last year, November, we had visited UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. And it was a good opportunity for us to do business engagements and thank the travel trade for their support all these years. In 2019, Singapore had welcomed 131,000 visitors from the GCC states to Singapore, which was a 7.7% growth over the previous year. And as Sanjit had alluded to, the travelers from the GCC are also high spending travelers in Singapore. And they are very selective, and they look at the experiences Singapore has to offer in a very clear, selective manner, right? For Singapore, this year, we started the year with a lot of plans, but thanks to COVID-19, all the plans have been put in disarray. We are relooking at how we can recalibrate our strategies and plans as we cautiously and very deliberately look at reopening of the borders. One thing's for sure, and I think all the panelists will also echo the same point. One thing is for sure is that we do not know what is coming and how fast the COVID-19 pandemic can be controlled and contained, and borders can really reopen very effectively. At the very outset, travel and tourism is going to be a very deliberate and cautious reopening in many countries. Safety is going to be of topmost priority for the governments as they reopen. Safety is going to be highly on the agenda of travelers as they plan for their travels. So I think for Singapore, just for my opening remarks, I will just say that we are taking very cautious, deliberate steps to reopen our borders. Since January end, when the very first COVID-19 case happened in Singapore, we had gone into a circuit breaker mode, which was lockdown, and the economy was put on pause mode. And after that, we have started our very gradual reopening, safe reopening of Singapore. And today in Singapore, the economy has restarted. Many parts of the economy has restarted. We have launched a domestic tourism campaign called Singapore Rediscover to allow the local residents to start enjoying some of the experiences offered by the attractions and hotels, of course, within all the safe distancing and safe norms that is to be in place. So I suppose that we are gradually experimenting with how the new norms will be like. And we then have to start relooking at what are the borders that we can open to in a very calibrated manner. Today, Singapore has opened its borders in small numbers to countries like China, Brunei, New Zealand, Malaysia. And I think over the course of the next few months, we have to see how this opening can be expanded to many more countries, but it will be done in a very deliberate, calibrated manner. So I think Singapore is taking all the necessary steps, just like many countries, on safety, economic balance. We need to balance up how we are going to open up the economy. And of course, for travel and tourism in specific, we need to also be ready together with our Singapore stakeholders to handle the new norms in travel and tourism as we evolve in this scenario. That's it for my opening remarks. Sanjit, back to you.
Thank you, Sridhar. That's wonderful, and I like the positive and the confidence that it's going to open up, and you have started your domestic market, which I think is very, very encouraging. Friends, now I like to move on, and the best thing to do is to get onto the airline first. I think that's the most important thing to do. So Christian, I'm going to come to you. With the resumption of international flights from UAE is a gradual process. What are the key challenges the airlines and the tour operator is likely to face to fill the seats and to get visitors to buy holidays? What do you think are the challenges going to be? And from an airline point of view, what do you think when will you be able to fill your seats to the various destinations? Christian?
Yeah, hello Sanjit, hello everyone. Happy to be here in this panel and also to share the views from an airline's point of view. In fact, the last couple of months and last 6 months, so to say, have been very challenging for all airlines around the world. To take a step back, we just want to share where we actually came from. So our last financial year, 2019-2020, was actually one of the most successful and most promising years we had in a very long time until COVID-19 hit. We saw the highest ever passenger load factors of more than 84% on average. We saw good revenue quality among all our network. And in February, March, the effects of COVID-19 could really be felt across the network. And gradually, we had to suspend flights. And as of now, at the current moment, we are only operating 7% of our initially planned passenger capacity around the network. Specifically looking at the Middle East, there's of course a number of challenges that airlines are facing in reopening and relaunching the flights. And I think these challenges are universally faced by most of the airlines. Singapore Airlines is in a very unique position because we are an airline that doesn't have a domestic network. So we are fully reliant on international air travel and really on the border openings and the travel restrictions imposed by the countries. So before we can relaunch the flights, of course, we are closely monitoring the developments in each of our destination countries, how the COVID-19 numbers are developing, and how the politics are changing in terms of border reopening. So that's one of the key prerequisites for us to be sure that once we reopen flights, the destinations we are serving are also ready to accept passengers. Another major challenge, of course, airlines are facing is a lack of consumer confidence. Right now, I think a lot of our customers, a lot of our passengers, they're actually ready to travel. They are ready to go back to visit their friends and families, but there's also many passengers, whether it's corporate travelers, whether it's leisure travelers, that are quite afraid of whether it is safe to travel, what are the airlines doing in keeping the passengers safe on board, and also what are the measures imposed at the destination countries. So the questions that our customers are asking, is it actually safe to travel? And from that question really comes the lack of travel confidence that we are currently experiencing. I coincidentally checked the latest OECD statistics yesterday, and they actually showed that the consumer confidence right now at this point in time is at an all-time low, and that really is reflected in the subdued demand that we currently experience and that we witness in the market. Other challenges that, of course, we see right now is the topic of health and safety. I was talking about the consumer confidence that we need to see before we are able to relaunch a sizable number of flights. So we are also in the process of implementing a wide range of health and safety measures across all touch points, pre-flight, during the flight, and post-flight, to really provide comfort and assurance to our customers that it is safe to travel. A lot has been done already on this front, but a lot of initiatives will still need to follow in the next couple of months. And the last but not least, another challenge I think we are facing right now is to really meet the specific requirements of the various customer segments that we are serving. So we need, of course, offer flexible options to our customers in terms of rebooking options, cancellation options for tickets. So this is all a given nowadays, but these are important factors that play a role in determining how fast we are able to come back, and ultimately how much we will be able to capitalize on a potential recovery. Yeah, I think these are probably the main challenges we're facing right now as an airline.
Thank you, Christian. That's wonderful. And I really hope we go back to the COVID, before the COVID area, if you're looking at 85% and things of that kind, I think that's really, really good to go. Moving on, friends, now let's talk to the industry. And before I go to the industry, I think let's get a perspective which is very different. What's happening and how are the people going to do what's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to Vigo, and I'm going to ask Mahmood Minan if he can come in. We really want to ask you, since you have the booking and you know what the data is and stuff like that, the Middle East traveler is always supposed to be, as I said in the beginning, still the high yield tourist. Do you think after this COVID, for all international destinations, will the Middle East travelers still spend that kind of money?
Well, hi everyone, and thanks again for having me here. Yeah, that's a very good question actually. And in general, do we expect the Middle East traveler to remain as a high yield tourist? Yes, we do, for many reasons actually. The travel is part of the DNA of people here around the region. It's kind of the inherited sort of habit over the years. It's been developed. Plus the cosmopolitan sort of city setup we have across the region here. Many expats living in the cities around the region, especially in the GCC. Those will always be traveling, whether they go to their families back home or for business trips or for the leisure trips. So that's been always there. The growth ratio of this part of the world year over year, of course, except 2020 where COVID-19 kind of stopped everything, but in general, we've been seeing a growth of 6 to 7% on average when it comes to average spend per passenger, or total spend per passengers from the region here. Interesting figure is with some researches we've done, around 59% of population of Saudi Arabia are actually taking a trip once a year at least for a leisure travel. So it is a very high yield market. It's a high spending market. It's a long vacation market as well. Like average stay usually 3 weeks. Average booking value from the region here for hotels, you're talking about $500 US per night. So it is a rich market, and we think, and we've seen some initial results right now, especially when some of the destinations, especially on the domestic travel, opened up. We've seen some strong comeback straight away, which means that people in the region here are still willing to travel, still willing to go on vacation whenever it's allowed. Sorry, can you hear me? Continue. Yeah. So those all factors make us a bit more positive than others maybe around the world. That once we get more clarity on destinations that's going to be opening up and welcoming tourists from the region, we're going to see a strong comeback. And yes, it's going to remain a high yield market for sure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I love the way you mentioned that it's a high market, is in their DNA. So I'm looking at the Middle East to spend a lot of money in Singapore. So that's what we're going to look at to it. Okay, friends, now moving on. Let's hear what the tour operators on the ground are basically saying. So the best thing to do is to go to the Sea Wheel Travel. Alvin, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
What I really want to ask you is, what is the new normal which is going to be now for groups or MICE or FITs, and also for luxury clients? Would there be a different normal for luxury clients? Are there any differences?
I'll start off from the macro perspective first, in terms of what segment will do well moving forward. I think FIT would be the default style of travel post pandemic, for obvious reasons. Lesser number of people. You want to travel with your friends you're familiar with, or close family members, instead of traveling together in a group with perhaps people that you don't know. So definitely FIT, or free independent traveler, will be even more important moving forward. And the Middle East market have always been, I think, a FIT market, so that suits the market perfectly. Some changes you'll probably see in terms of some of the operation matters, operational aspect that you see. Example for FIT, instead of perhaps joining an excursion where the excursion picks up different guests from different hotels, and they take everybody together on an excursion. Perhaps now you'll see more of a private arrangement where the guests just want the excursion to be just be among them instead of mixing with other people. So I think private arrangement more, you'll see more private arrangement where they want to be more exclusive. Luxury travel, I think, will remain. Luxury travel has always been a very small, in terms of number of people traveling, it's always very small people. It's more exclusive. It's very private. Everything is privately arranged, and they stay in upscale, top range hotel. So I think those will continue to stay. They will continue to travel that way. MICE, I think, will take a longer time to come back. Obviously, because obviously you're looking at the big numbers, and also I think incentive groups, meeting groups are organized by multinational corporations most of the time, and it's for their internal staff and their external customers, for example. Therefore, sometimes, and all these MNCs have very strong safety and health protocols also with regards to travel. So I think they'll be a little bit more careful. I think when they're organizing trips, they might not do it immediately. So it will take a longer time. Obviously, because of the potential risk. Leisure groups, probably after the pandemic, you'll see pretty much an end, perhaps maybe to what we call a leisure group or a series group, where the outbound tour operator, example in the Middle East, sell a 5-day program to Singapore, but it's anybody can just go to the agency and just book a trip, where that means the people on the group are potentially strangers. So you might see that you might see an end to that style of traveling. Obviously, people now are more careful. They want to be they want to know who they are traveling with. So I think from that perspective, that's a big picture of the different segments. In terms of the micro level, in terms of operation, what we are doing at Seaview Travel, health and safety obviously has been discussed, is the most important factor right now. So we have already put in place a set of protocols in terms of what we will be doing. For example, every vehicle that our customers get on board will have what we call a QR code, where they can scan in and scan out, just like what's happening right now in all the restaurants and more, where this is more for contact tracing purposes. So we know exactly who was on board the vehicle. Those are more operational aspect of things where we have put in place. You'll probably see more perhaps itineraries that involve outdoors in open spaces rather than confined spaces due to the characteristics of the virus. You'll probably see more a walking tour, shorter tours instead of maybe 1 or 2 hours instead of a 4-hour tour, to reduce the time spent together among a group of people. So these are some of the new norms that will be you'll see happening moving forward as well. We have also put in place also internally at Seaview Travel, we have a dedicated health safety officer with a dedicated vehicle, which is solely responsible in the event of any perhaps any emergency, where that person alone and that vehicle alone will look after the affected guests.
Thank you, Alvin. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, that's great, and I love this idea about every vehicle having the QR code, so you know who's been there and who's not been there. I think that's different from that's really a new normal. I would really mention that. I think that's something which everybody should look at going forward.
And of course, in terms of temperature taking, that will be the norm. I think that will be every time, maybe a couple of times a day during the excursion, just to ensure that everything is in order.
Okay, we have a few more questions for you, but Alvin, I'll come back to you. I need to now go on to the hotels. I would really go to the Far East Hospitality. Regina, as the lady, I'm not coming to you the last, but I'm coming because of the property hotels. I know hotels have done a lot of work and they're still doing a lot of new SOPs and stuff like that. But rather than going into that, I thought we'd ask you is, what marketing or planning do you plan to undertake for the GCC market after this COVID is over, or at the moment now? What are your plans for the Middle East?
Okay, so for our hotel itself, right? Because we are situated. I mean, for myself, I'm situated in Sentosa itself. So Middle East GCC itself is actually like a new and upcoming market for our hotel itself. So we would definitely want to do something more with the travel agents that are in the Middle East. So for example, if like there's any like fam trips or what, if they're required to do any webinar or what, we are more than happier to support. Like for this Middle East webinar that we participated in, I actually reach out to Prasad quite last minute because I actually saw on the website. So I actually reached out to him, and I understand that it was actually more for travel agents, but asked him if the hotels can take part instead. Because for Sentosa, I believe that for GCC itself, not many people in GCC know where is Sentosa, or rather not only GCC, but other parts of the countries, whenever you tell them Sentosa, right, no one knows where is Sentosa. So for now, if let's say, due to the travel restrictions, etc., we cannot reach out to the travel agents or any of the guests to come into the hotel, what we can do is that we can do webinar sessions. We can also send across like our hotel brochures, or even do some marketing campaigns or what, that we can give out like lucky draws. And once they are more than able to travel to Singapore, we will definitely be happier to host them.
All right. Thanks, Ogina. That's wonderful. And I know it's an upcoming market, so a lot of initiative needs to be done. So I'm going to go on now, move ahead. So I'm going to come to you, Sridhar. In fact, I know this may be a little surprise to you, but everybody's talking about the new normal and new things which everybody is doing. I just want to ask you, as Singapore Tourism Board, would you be looking at some new SOPs for the travel trade which they need to follow, or are they going to create their own SOPs? Sorry, if you would like to answer that.
I think, Sanjit, there will be a consensus about how travel and tourism has to be handled. And this will come across the travel industry from various sources, right? So as countries relook at reopening borders, there will be a congruence of ideas. How do we handle leisure groups? How do we handle MICE groups? How do we handle crews, right? So I think there will be certain standard norms evolving. Probably for a start, it will be countries-based. Of course, each country will have a certain view of how to open up and do their preparations for the restart. So for example, in Singapore's case, we have a Tourism Recovery Action Committee that is looking at how do we keep our Singapore stakeholders engaged and productive during this COVID-19 crisis. Number two, we do have a Singapore Clean initiative where we, together with the National Environment Agency and other agencies, government agencies, we are certifying attractions and hotels and premises that meet certain safety precautions and safety guidelines to make sure that whoever is coming in, whoever visitors are coming into those premises are kept safe. So the Singapore Clean initiative is another example. Maybe a third example I can also talk about, say, we look at the MICE front, right? So with the gradual resumption of the economic activities, Singapore has relooked at how do we engage on the MICE front. And we have developed a risk management framework for business events up to 50 attendees, 50. So for a start, we are looking at how do we manage a size of 50, right? So under Singapore Tourism Board's Safe Business Event Risk Management Framework, which is done in partnership with many relevant partners, we have got 5 areas and 5 outcomes. 1, infection control measures for every stage of an event attendee's journey, pre to post event. 2, limits on crowd density. 3, limits on close contact between individuals. 4, ensuring a safe and clean environment. And 5, preparing for any emergencies relating to COVID-19. Now, if you just look at all the 5 that I've just mentioned, you can visualize this same 5 coming into play as to how hotels will handle, how attractions will handle, how travel agencies will handle groups, right? So I think my sense is, as countries relook at the restart, there will be certain frameworks and certain guidelines coming across from those countries. But at some point, there will be a common alignment and congruence, and the travel industry will come together to say, okay, these are the set of new norms and set of new measures we need to put in place so that the traveler, you see, the key thing is the customer, right? The consumer at the end of the day. That particular traveler must not be confused over how is he going to travel between states or between territories. So I think over time there will be some congruence, and I'm hopeful that as things play out, there will be more and more clarity between countries. How are we going to manage travel and tourism among ourselves? Thank you. Your mic is off.
Thanks a lot. No, Sridhar, thanks a lot. I think this clean initiative is something which we all look forward to, and I think that's something which is going to take make Singapore stand apart from the rest of the countries. Moving on, I'd really like to go back to Singapore Airlines, and I really wanted to go to Christian. Christian, if you're there, I really want to mention, you heard Sridhar, he's talking about physical or social distancing and for mice and other place. Your plane load is full of, what do I say, of mice people, if I may use that. So how you going to, really wanted to ask you was, which you missed out the first time, how do you plan to fill up your seats with holiday goers? Because I understand that there is an issue of confidence, but still, do you have any special plans? Or are you going to make them, how do you show them safety? And what will you take that forward? How will you look into that, dealing with your operators and filling your planes?
Yeah, I think a very good question, because ultimately what we want to achieve, our core objective is to make sure that once we resume operations, in our case to Dubai, that the flights are as full as possible. Otherwise, it won't make economic sense to operate certain routes. So the way we go about relaunching flights across our network is actually in a very measured approach. Unfortunately, and as I mentioned before, as for many airlines, the key challenges that we are facing are actually outside of our direct control, which is basically the border restrictions and the easing of the same around the network. And that's something all airlines have to live with and work with. So what we are doing is we're monitoring constantly, like how the countries are changing their measures, how the COVID-19 cases are developing, and as a result, where are we ready to launch flights to which destination? Once we've decided to relaunch the flights to certain destinations, then of course, it's the whole set of toolkits that we've been applying in the past, which has proven well and which we expect to continue to work under the new normal. However, what we do expect is a change in the composition of our customer segments on board. In the past, for example, we would have had a sizable number of corporate, of business travelers on board, number of people going back home to visit their friends and families, but also tourists. So this composition will change in the future, and accordingly, our sales and marketing strategies will have to evolve accordingly to cater for the new requirements. So to fill the seats, of course, we will be reaching out and working closely with our trade partners in terms of tour operator packages, but also making sure that the right fare and distribution products are in place that really meet our customers' expectations under the new normal. For example, making sure that the tickets come with the right degree of flexibility, with cancellation flexibility as well. And then on the other side, we also need to make sure that we take our customers on the journey in making them feel safe and healthy on board. And there's actually a lot of things that have been happening over the last couple of months already. So although we are right now not operating between Singapore and Dubai, we've been launching a wide-ranging communication strategy that really is targeting our frequent travelers, the end consumers, but also the trade, to really educate them about what Singapore Airlines is doing to make flying safe and to make it a comfortable experience. And there is a number of initiatives. For example, every passenger is getting a care kit that comes with wipes and face masks. The airport check-in experience has been evolving, and check-in kiosks, for example, have been upgrading with sensors, so customers don't have to touch the screens anymore. So there's a lot of small initiatives along the customer journey that have been implemented and that will be continue to be implemented along the way to make sure that our customers really have a safe and a comfortable journey. And by creating this level of safe feeling and giving them assurance, that will be the core and the backbone also in making sure that we are able to fill the flights again. Once the demand comes back, then we will also gradually be increasing the capacity and the frequency of our flights around the network and to our core destinations.
Thank you, Christian. Thanks a lot. I've well understood, and I love the which you talked about now, the touchable, untouchable screens. So that's something which is something new. So that's something which you're going to go. But now let's move ahead again. Again, let's know what the total situation is about the bookings and everything. So I'm going to come back to Mamoon. We're going to come back to Vigo, and I'm going to ask you I'm asking you two questions in one. Which destinations, according to you, will really pick up from the Middle East, which are the people who are going to go to Singapore? And second question, which I'm adding to this, is going to be, with this new normal, which travel insurance become mandatory? And lastly, if I may say that the decision of going to the destination is going to remain with the destination like Singapore to welcome you, or you can go if you have a good insurance. What is going to be the future like?
All right, so actually it's many things together at the moment, but back to the first question we discussed, that basically, we've run some research in April, and we asked a very simple question: would you travel this year? And like 60% of our users at that time said yes, we will stick to our plans. Of course, nobody knew that actually the COVID-19 lockdown is going to take that long, and destinations are going to put that much of restrictions. We repeated the same questions again in June, and we actually saw around 70%. So it's actually increased from 60 to 70, which means that people are ready to travel. The problem here, and I would echo Christian as well, is the information, right? So it's the destinations where, who's gonna come and tell people what do they need to do to enjoy a trip to that destination, how they're gonna onboard a flight, how they're gonna what are sort of protocols that they need to follow to enter a destination. Is there a quarantine or no? These kind of information is kind of messed up at the moment across the world. It's going to take a little bit of time, for sure. We're trying ourselves to build a product that basically, we give you a digital page where you put your origin destination and your end destination, and we give you all the list of protocols. Unfortunately, it changes a lot. It changes almost every week from destination to another. Now, to your question, who will win first? I think the typical, what I call usually typical destinations from the region here are gonna go faster than the others. So the likes of Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, these kind of nearby destinations, 4 or 5 hours flights. India for sure. Whenever it allows, you're gonna see a quick comeback. Part of it is because the expats community, part of it is the business community. We're expecting intra-GCC regional travel to come faster than the normal, long haul travel. Dubai has been, benefiting quite a lot since they started and opening up the borders once again. We've seen lots of inbound happening. We're still waiting for many of the international flights to be in operation from other destinations. When it comes to destinations like Singapore, I think the mindset of people across the region here at Singapore is super hygiene, super strict. It's that country that they do things right always, and I think that's gonna help Singapore as a destination because there is that sort of confidence from travelers from this part of the world about the measures that Singapore will be taking in place, or whatever they do is going to be at the highest level. But I think, lots of education, lots of content is needed. Would travel insurance be a mandatory? I would say yes, for sure. People are more conscious than any time before. I think destinations is going to be able to offer more outdoor activities, are going to win faster than those who normally would be more indoor hotels, 5 stars, resorts, high touch kind of product. I think nature is going to play a big role within the selection of travelers from the region. I think back to the original point, content and information. If I do have a travel insurance with me, that's fine. I know that I am covered, but I still need to know what do I need to do if I get sick in that destination. Where do I go? What are the clinics or hospitals that are going to help me? Who's going to provide me this information? Would I find it online? Is it the tourism board? Is it the hotel itself? Is it going to come with my flight ticket, my hotel reservation? These kind of information, I think it needs to be built within the product and the offering from now until the vaccine is out, tested, and been in the market. Yeah, so that's the view at the moment on the both points. But yeah, long haul travel, I think it's gonna take a little bit more than the regional or the short haul travel to come back.
Okay, let me ask you one small question on that. You think that the insurance will really go up, or there'll be a separate set of insurance for COVID and the normal will stay, or what do you think is going to happen?
See, when it comes to the region here, there is a very, very strange understanding of travel insurance in general, right? For those who would need visas, usually, so, which is big portion of the travelers from this part of the world, travel insurance comes as a mandatory within the visa application, right? But many people actually buy it, they didn't know when or how they're gonna use it, or what does it cover, or they just buy the policy because they have to have that document with them. I think now people are more careful about how they're gonna act towards this. Now, travel insurance, when it comes to COVID, yeah, that's gonna be a mandatory for sure. But once again, if I am PCR tested, I am negative, and I go to that destination, do I need a travel insurance? These kind of questions are not yet being asked, and there's no massive or scale practice yet to look at it. But I would say, yeah, people are going to be more conscious now, and people are going to be more interested to buy a travel insurance if it does cover COVID-19, for sure.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That gives us a good picture. Moving on, I'm coming to you, Alvin. What I really want to ask you is quickly is going to be, what will the new restart look like? What should travel agents and tour operators in the Middle East be aware about before sending people to Singapore? What's your take on that?
Well, I think the restart will be some of the things that I've discussed earlier, which is the new normal. So the restart is the new normal. I think the tour operators, the outbound agents obviously in the Middle East, first of all, need to know obviously the requirements of entering a country, in this case like Singapore, and obviously those information the tourism board and the stakeholders will also have to communicate clearly to the outbound operators in the Middle East. So information right now is important. Like I said, a lot of questions have not been answered. There's no answers to a lot of the questions. So they need to be aware also, of course, of the steps we have taken, the safety measures that we have put in place to ensure safe reopening for all travelers to Singapore. So information, I think, is the key right now, and I think right now what Mahmoud is saying, that information is a bit, some of the information is changing almost daily. It's a very dynamic situation. It changes, requirements changes, and regulations change. So we have to be updated as well. And I think we need to keep the communications channel open.
Thank you, Alvin. I totally understand. I'm moving on to Regina. I'm coming to you. My question to you would be, will you, after this corrections, what you're doing and after post-COVID, would you see an increase in prices of your property, of your rooms? What's your take on that?
Okay, so I mean, for our hotel take itself, right after the post-COVID, right, if whether there will be an increase. So currently, right now, we are all running like promotions for the next upcoming year until all the way until 2021, until December 2021. So there isn't actually an increase in the rates at all. We are still running on the same. If let's say if it's like wholesale contracted rates, we still give based on our static rates. And even so, we are also giving out we are throwing in like giving promotions as well to push for like a better occupancy in our hotels itself. Because for my hotel itself, we are actually selling 3 different categories in a location itself. So we are trying very hard to gain back you know, like the number of bookings that we used to get previously. And also that's why we do give like promotions for our bookers and our travel agents also. And we do also have value adds for the bookings as well.
Sorry, point well taken, and I like the way you want to work with the travel agent. I think that's the way forward, and your partners, I think they really need the support at this time also. Well, I know we are really running short of time, but I wanted to give all of you a good time to wind up and give your closing remarks. So I want to start with you, Regina. In fact, as the lady, you should go first. So on the closing remarks, I really would like you to give your closing remarks and mention what are the key areas which you're going to focus in the next 2 quarters? What would you look at that? And with that, your closing remarks.
I mean, for us itself, we would be, you know, because we are in the hospitality industry. So like whichever that, you know, comes or any challenges that we have, definitely we will try to, you know, help, be it the travel agents or hotels itself, like how we are able to help to gain the business and also the trust back, and also like what we have done for like what the others has mentioned about the post-COVID measures. Yeah, so we actually have we're actually thinking of ways of how to gain back travelers back into the hotel to make us you know, for them to reach out to us.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I'm now going to come. I'm going to go on to Alvin if you're there. Alvin, you mentioned about before I give you the closing remarks, I thought I'm going to ask you for 2 things. You mentioned that the individual groups will not be there, and the private people will now look at private discussions. That's what you basically mentioned. So they become more, what do I say? They become more like luxury groups. So you're going to do everything individually. I thought that was really, really good. And moving on, you mentioned that there'll be walking tours and more outdoor activities than indoor. Now, pushing this, I really want to also ask you is, what would you think would your focus be for the next 2 quarters? And what, if there are anything unique you like to do in the GCC market with the travel trade, if you can specify, mention something on that, that'd be wonderful.
I think right now with the borders closed, the best we could do is keep the communication lines open. I think it is imperative that we let the Middle East market know that we are here for them. I think every destination and every DMCs and every other destinations will be so hungry for business. So I think it's important for us to continually engage our partners in the Middle East, to let them know what's going on, and that, you know, what the things that we have put in place. That's important. And also it's also time for us to increase our preparations once borders reopens, so that we've already wasted about 6-8 months of business. So when it does reopen, it's no time to be scrambling and getting the stuff ready. It's time to just turn on the switch and start selling. So internally, that's what we are doing. We are prepared already. What we need to do, the new packages, new information, all the various measures. So once we are ready for business, we will just turn it on. So 2 things: keep the communications line open, keep the information flowing, and also our internal readiness to engage the market once we are available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to you. I love the positivity. You're keeping yourself ready. The day you get your switch on and you're there. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now coming back, and now we need to really basically go to Vigo. I really want to ask you, Mahmood, something which is different. Of course, your closing remarks, but with your closing remarks of what you're going to do, what does the future look forward in the next 2 quarters? But I also want to ask you over here 2 things. Frankly, before I ask that, I love that statistics of yours. First, it was 60% when people want to travel, and then in June it went up to 70%. That's really heartening for the travel industry. I think that's the key. I think that's where it keeps all of us, they're run really going ahead in a big way. But now coming to your question, which I want to ask you and give you the closing part would be, would you think that the whole packages and hotels and everything, including airline, would they become expensive? Or will they all maintain the same level of pricing for the next 2 years? How do you see this going forward? And your closing remarks, please.
Well, there is not enough data yet to analyze that. But with what we've seen, at least from those destinations who opened up, actually it went from a super cheap, especially when we talk about room rate, it went from super cheap to a very, very expensive in like 6 weeks, right? So that reflects the demand, obviously. And destinations across UAE where we live, and where it's kind of the destinations that opened quite early, especially on the domestic and staycations. You know, they and 2 weeks ago, during the Eid al-Adha holiday, they've seen in many destinations in the UAE 100% occupancy rate, which they normally don't see, and prices went kind of the levels of, you know, the very high season in 2018. So it is going to increase. Now there are many theories. You know, at the beginning they said aircrafts are not going to operate in full capacity. They're going to keep the middle seat empty. That kind of vanished at the moment. You know, we're seeing prices kind of at the same level, staying at the same level now to where it was, especially on the airfares part. Hotels, it all depends on the supply and demand, obviously. Packages are going to be a key factor moving forward, definitely. Never been a big thing in the region here. People here like to plan their trips themselves and do it the way they privately, as mentioned earlier. But now they are seeking more ready packages, especially destinations that kind of coming new to the market. We've seen that with the likes of Azerbaijan, with the likes of the, you know, ex-Soviet Union states, and I think that's going to keep on rolling out in the coming few months to years probably. It's a very young region. Generally, people are very much tech savvy. They're into the digital space a lot, where we operate and where we think that we are in the right part of the business. Packages, when it comes to product on the digital space, is not really well developed yet. I think there is a big room for companies and operators in the sector to enhance that experience. How do we see it in the coming 2 quarters? See, for us, since the beginning, we just decided to focus on the product, and that was like the key thing we decided. We knew that there is no business coming. We knew that our mission is going to be to survive, basically. We've seen some sad numbers in our charts. I think everybody saw it. We stopped looking at our charts for some point of time, but we focused completely on the product, and we fast-tracked many of the items within the roadmap, and we're rolling out many new products at the moment that's going to be suitable to the new normal, as they call it. I think the coming 2 quarters are going to be all about capturing the demand and setting ourselves and our product at the scale that's going to cater exactly to what the end user, the traveler, would be needing. On a personal note, just to close it off, we're positive. We think Q2 2021 is gonna be the time where we're gonna see some sort of decent recovery. But I don't think we're gonna see 2019 until 2022. So, but we're gonna keep on recovering towards achieving that potentially in 12 months time.
Thank you so much. I love your confidence, and I love the way you're saying 2019 and 2022. Wonderful. Even if we can achieve that, I think that'll be great for the travel industry. Thank you so much. I love that confidence. Keep that spirit going. Okay, moving on, friends. Now I need to come back with to the airline again. And Christian, I'm coming back to you now. You've heard everybody, and I like the way that you mentioned the Singapore Airlines. You're going to look at the flexible options of rebooking tickets and stuff like that. And but I really want to ask you is, going forward, look at your crystal ball and tell us, what do you think is going to be the time frame when things will pick up? You heard what you just mentioned about 2019 becoming 2020. Maybe earlier. It all depends, because you have an advantage because one is travel and tourism and one is business travel, and then there's VFR. So there are different segments which the airline really picks up at the moment. So what do you think? Look at the crystal ball and tell us what time frames do you look at when things will go back, and what is your plans for the next 2 quarters? What do you look at Singapore Airlines will be doing?
Sure. Well, looking at the crystal ball right now is indeed a very challenging affair. But perhaps looking at some of the forecasts, some of the industry forecasts that are available, they suggest that actually the airline industry will not be back to pre-COVID-19 levels until potentially 2024 or even 2025, which is a very challenging outlook, and it will truly put a number of airlines at risk of operations. As for Singapore Airlines, I think we are confident. We have strong shareholder support, and we are in a position to withstand the crisis for some time. Our expectation right now is that by March 2021, we foresee and forecast that we will not be operating more than 50% of our pre-COVID-19 capacity. So that's the current estimates that we base our planning on. And this is pretty much in line with what we see out there in the field and across the network, with border restrictions being quite tight, with countries only slowly reopening their borders, and actually with COVID-19 still being ongoing and spreading. So we see second and third waves, which might trigger even a reintroduction of certain border restrictions in some countries. So this being the case, the outlook, I think, realistically is uncertain. The recovery, we expect it to be volatile, with short-term gains, but also with short-term downfalls again. And that's why, for us, it's of utmost importance that we remain nimble and flexible, but also agile in adjusting to that situation. And I think probably my key takeaways and the outlook for the next 2 quarters until March 2021 would be to really focus on 3 key pillars, also those which we've been focusing on over the last couple of months already. And those are really about communication, cooperation, and preparation. I think communication, I shared earlier that we make it a point to really actively engage our consumers, our passengers, but also our trade partners, and take them on the journey, keep them updated. What is happening? How is the travel journey evolving? And what will change when really passengers travel to their destination in the future? So this is really about managing expectations and take our stakeholders, our partners along the way, and keep them really engaged and updated along the way. The second point is cooperation. Singapore Airlines has a very strong history in this part of the world, in the Gulf and the Middle East. We have strong support from the trade. We have strong support from our frequent flyers, and also strong support from our business partners. So what we will continue to focus on is to really engage these stakeholders, one of them being the Singapore Tourism Board. And I would like to thank our friends and partners from STB for really working closely with Singapore Airlines here to make sure that once Singapore will reopen the borders, that we will be able to capitalize on the pent-up demand and on the new demand that is coming in. So really cooperating with our stakeholders and with our industry partners is of utmost importance as well. And last but not least, it's about preparation. I think as I said, we need to remain flexible and agile in really preparing ourselves for what is to come. Our surveys have shown that actually the key value drivers for customers in a post-COVID-19 world have not changed, with the exception of one point, which is about health and wellness when traveling. Yeah, but the key value drivers of flying with a safe airline, with a great onboard product, with a great service, punctual, etc., those have not changed, and those will be continuing to be the key backbone of our business model. But of course, as I said, the focus on health and wellness and well-being will be something that we have and will continue to actively incorporate in our communication strategy to make sure customers feel comfortable and assured when traveling on Singapore Airlines. And last but not least, I think although this is a very challenging time for everyone in the industry, not only for the airlines, but for our travel agency partners and for our other stakeholders as well, I think there's one thing to rest assured about, is that this industry will recover as it has in the past. And there's reason to stay optimistic. Although these are challenging times, but recovery will come. I think we have to stay faithful and optimistic. And once recovery comes, we need to make sure that we are ready and able to capitalize on the opportunities that come our way. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. But these are pretty much, I think, the pillars to focus on.
Thank you, Christian. And I love that word, to stay faithful. I think that's going to be the key for this industry. That's what I really will look forward to. Can I have Sridhar? Sridhar, are you there? Can we, don't see you. Yeah, there you are. Sridhar, but one thing which I would like to end by, and I'm going to give that to you to say the last word. You mentioned cautious reopening. I think that's the key word which every country or every nation in the world needs to look at. However, I want to ask you one, if I may use that word, a stupid question. My stupid question to you is, we are all looking forward for the vaccine to come in. And the rumors are, if I were to believe them, that the vaccine is around the corner. Some say it'll happen by the end of the year, whatever it happens. Now, what happens to all the preparation you people are doing? Will they all be on the side, or will they become SOPs for future? What's going to happen?
Okay, I'm not sure whether the vaccines are around the corner. If that is indeed the case, I think all of us are going to be having broad smiles on our faces, right? I do think it is going to be, whatever we're going to prepare now, it is not going to be shelved. I think it has to be kept aside, and it will be something that we need to adapt, right? So I was going to say that a couple of things that I visualize coming up as part of the STB, as well as talking to the travel trade fraternity, the colleagues, and some of them are in the room. And I think a lot of good points have been raised by my colleagues here. And all of them, I think I tend to agree with a lot of the points that have been raised. So one important point is, it is going to be a very cautious and deliberate reopening. And it is not going to be a magic bullet. And even when the vaccine comes, the distribution of the vaccine, the cost of the vaccine, the effectiveness of the vaccine, a lot of variables, right? So in fact, one key thought is, there are going to be so many variables, and we need to manage those variables and still do our work as best as we can. So I think we need to take very practical, very adaptable, and very deliberate steps, but we need to take the steps. We cannot just sit back and say, let it pass over and then we come back. No, we need to restart. We need to rethink our strategies and get ready, get prepared. The second point I would like to make is, how do we manage, right? So, and I echo what Christian has said. I think communication is very key. We need to continue our trade engagement. And for us in Singapore tourism, growing connections, achieving together, which is our trade engagement thing, is very, very important. And that is why this particular virtual roadshow or virtual event is very important for us to connect with the travel trade in Middle East and let them know that this is what are some of the things that's happening in Singapore. We've got about 14 Singapore stakeholders who are going to be part of the roadshow on the 31st of August. So they will be there to sort of let people know what is happening, what is the update. And we need to do that. We need to keep on continually updating people. We need to continually engage the travel trade, because they are the key levers for us, key bridge for us to engage the consumers. And that brings me finally to the consumers. I think we are very clear that the consumer engagement needs to carry on. We have started a series of various virtual events and consumer engagement events, including like Zouk, Futurescape, and some other virtual events to let consumers know that this is what's currently happening in Singapore. And as we get ready, this information needs to be passed on to the consumers. So I think it's very important that we keep our engagements going. It is very important that we keep our minds working on what's coming, adapt, adjust, and some of the steps that we do take now may have to be adapted again if some new information comes in. And some of my colleagues have suggested if there are going to be opening up and then suddenly there's a bit of a rise in numbers, do we like sort of narrow it down again? So the starts and restarts may be there for a while, but we need to adapt. We need to take the steps. And I think very importantly, we need to acknowledge the fact that travel and tourism is now something that's so innate, something that every one of us will look out for. I mean, we want a break. We want to enjoy. We want to get out of our familiar territory and go and explore some new place. So the travel and tourism is very innate in us. And when the moment comes, I'm sure a lot of the travelers will take the necessary precautions, safety being, of course, key, but they will travel. So I think in the meantime, we all of us have to just stay safe, stay positive, and stay productive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sridhar. That was really a great closing remark. But I just want to say two things to all the delegates who are here at the roadshow. You heard every one of them and how positive they are, and they're looking forward to a lot of new things. Like I said, Singapore is taking a lead among all of the other countries, and they will never let you forget what Singapore is all about, and they're making sure that they are top of the mind recall. Even during this time, they are here with us in the Middle East to make sure all of us never ever forget a moment when we don't think of Singapore. Thank you, all of you, all the panelists, the experts. You guys have been really wonderful. It was a great learning, and I think I agree this was great learning, great experience for all of us, and we hope that more and more tourists will go into Singapore very soon, sooner than later, put it that way. And crystal ball, here we come. So let's wait and watch what happens, basically. And all of you, once again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure hearing you out and all that. And hope to see you soon in flesh and blood in real life. Thanks a lot. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.